Hi everyone, this is week 4, part 2, and I'm going to briefly just tell you what you need to put in the first part of your paper. Let me back up. You guys notice that for APA style, you definitely need to have an abstract. That is actually page 2 of your paper. Page 1 is your title page. Please refer to your APA manual on how to do your title page. You should have done a title page for your annotated bibliography, which that will change for your research paper that you turn in. Same format, but maybe different title and things like that. Page 2 is your annotated bibliography. You're going to be doing that after you complete your research project. Because then you're going to go back and give a brief overview of the entire paper and project. So save page 2 for later for your abstract. That's the last thing you're going to do before you submit your paper. Page 3 begins your introduction to your topic. The first page or two, you are going to give as an introduction of your topic. In the sample that I've given you guys, and I think it's under week 2 course materials, the student is talking about negative body image, and the student pleads a case on why it's important for us to study this. So she does a brief overview of what body image is, and why it impacts women's self-esteem, or other influential things, factors that affect their body image. So you do that. Make sure you cite as necessary, because you're going to pull information again from your annotated bibliography, from your articles that talk about the importance. Why is this topic important? Why are you doing this topic? What is this topic about? Just a very general introduction. Then after you do that, it should just maybe be about a page or so, maybe 2. Most people I see only do about a page. And then they go into what's called the purpose of the study, the purpose of the present study. Basically, what are you going to do? How are you going to research this topic that you just told us is very important in the introduction? How are you going to do it? And you're going to tell us what the purpose of your study is. And you can go and read some examples of that. Be very clear. The purpose of the present study is to further look at how body image affects women in a negative way. And then you maybe do a little explanation on that. You kind of did that already in your research question worksheet, okay? So, I've had you do some of these exercises to help you begin to understand how you're going to put these things in your paper. The next part of your introduction, before you start your literature review, is you're going to present your research question. You're only required to do 1 research question, not 2 or 3. I don't want this to be complicated. So the person in this paper that I posted says that the research question to be explored is, are women influenced to have a negative body image perception due to the verbal and nonverbal messages received from significant members in their lives? So she did her general introduction thing about how body image can really negatively affect a woman. Then she talked about the purpose of this is to study this further. And then her question is very specific. Maybe it's been addressed already in the literature that she reviewed. Maybe it hasn't, but at least she has some basic information. She has some studies that she can cite to say, hey, my question is going to add to the literature. Or maybe you found an article that, hey, I really want to replicate that study and maybe tweak it a little bit. And so you might be doing the same type of study that someone else has done, maybe the same question to answer, but you want to see let's see if I get the same results, or let me see if I tweak it a little bit, how will the outcome be different or the same? So your research question may or may not have already been answered, in some of the other literature that you've read, but this is your take on it. So your research question, which I've already approved, should be next. The next part of your introduction to your paper is operational definitions. So I think I've alluded to that, and some of you guys I've talked to about this already. but you definitely need to operationalize, meaning define very important topics of your not topics, define very important words or phrases that you are going to use in your research study to make sure that we understand what you're talking about. So for this paper, she talked about negative body image. Well, what is that? So she defines that herself based on things that she's read about negative body image, and she put a definition together for that. Or you can just take someone else's definition and cite it directly if that's what the definition of your word is for the purposes of your study. Okay, that's the key. Another word that this particular student used, or to operationalize, she knew she needed to operationalize body image dissatisfaction. But what does that mean for my study? And she defined that particularly. Some of you may only have a few words. Some of you may have 10 words, depending on how complicated your study is. But please make sure that every important word or phrase that you include in your research question and just your study in general is specifically defined. When you talk about teenagers, for example, well, what is that? Is your teenagers going to be between the ages of 13 and 18? Or are your teenagers going to be between the ages of 12 and 19? There's different definitions of your of teenager. There's different definitions of everything. So you have to define that. So that's the third and last part of your introduction. Then you're going to do a transition sentence that just says, in my next part of my paper, or do not use first person, please. Third person only. This is a formal research paper. So in the next section, a review of the literature will be presented. Something like that. Then you go into your literature review, and this is where I talked about in the first video. You're going to take your information from your annotated bibliography and maybe some other resources that you've gathered since turning that in, and you are going to present the existing literature about and around your topic. It does not have to be very specific to your question, but it has to give us an idea of what is already out there about body image and how it can impact a woman negatively. Okay, so talking about this particular paper. So it's very important that you do. Please do not shorten this. I've had students only write me 1 page of literature review. That's not going to cut it. This is a thorough review of the literature about your topic. And I have required you to at least write 3 to 5 pages, which is not a lot. It's not a lot. Okay, so I'm making this very easy for you because this is a lot of work. So I'm trying to make it easy. I could have said 10 pages, but because this is you're not going to publish this, you're not really trying to prove causality or anything, I want you to have the experience. So I am saying 3 to 5 pages. I really want you to push to 5 pages if you can, because really if you're reviewing 10 sources, it really should be about that much. Don't send me 1 page or I'll send it back, just so you'll know. Okay, so make that literature review. Please use sub-level headings so you can really separate your different subtopics of your main topic. Okay, so like this particular lady, she did different topics that she thought was interesting about her overall topic. So she talked about weight. She talked about how media and television, articles about media and television and how that affects. She reviewed articles about eating pathology. She reviewed articles about sociocultural pressures. And she reviewed articles that she found about how messages from family, peers, and friends can affect. So she did find some articles that related directly to her particular research question. These subtopics don't have to be exactly your research question, but they have to be about your topic in general and what's out there about it, okay? So don't get bogged down with only finding articles about your particular question. It needs to be about your topic. What's out there? Let us know. Because at the end, when you do your discussion, you are going to tell us in your results and your discussion, this is what I found. Oh, how does my results match up, relate to, or contradict what is in my literature review? This is how the paper all comes together. Every part has a reason for being there. So I really want you guys to understand it's very important to have an extensive literature review. So when you go and do your discussion, which is the discussion part of your paper is to discuss what happened. Wonder why I got these type of results. How does my results add up or match up or again contradict what I discovered in the existing literature out there about my topic? And you could say, well, in my study, I found that family and friends, and I really can't remember what this young lady's results were, so I'm going to make this up really quick. In my paper, in my study, I found that family and friends had a huge impact, and there maybe she did a qualitative study where she interviewed, and the people that she interviewed said, "Hey, yes, those comments that my mom made to me, they really affected how I felt about myself." Or maybe she did a questionnaire, a quantitative a study, and found that in her questionnaire that 10 out of 15 of her participants answer the questions in a way that showed that, body image is really affected by messages from parents, peers, and family. So then she's going to compare that in the discussion to some of the other studies. Well, in so-and-so's study, 2010, they found similar results, blah, blah, blah. So that's how you connect the literature review to your actual live study that you did. So that's how this works. So please, I say all that to say, make your literature review count. Don't just throw fluff in there. Really tell us about these studies that you have found. Compare and contrast these studies in your literature review. So it might be that you found 3 literature review or 3 articles that are different from different authors, and they studied this, but they studied the same topic, body image, but they came up with different results. Okay, review that. Tell us about that. Or maybe they came up with similar. And so-and-so's 1989 study, comma, blah, 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 2000 study, comma, so-and-so's 2002 article, comma, came up with similar results about body image, and then explain what those results were. So you're going to link together articles that are alike, and then you also are going to compare and contrast these articles throughout your literature review. Please read the articles that you have found and see how the author writes their literature review. That will give you a better idea of how you can write yours. It's all pretty much the same, but everybody has different styles on how they do it. As long as it's in third person and formal, I am okay with that. Please do not do first person in any part of your paper. Even when you talk about your research design, it needs to be formal. When you're talking about yourself and what you're doing in the next part of the paper, talk about yourself as the researcher. The researcher will call up 10 individuals and reach out to interview. Do not say, "I will." Talk about you being the researcher. So that's in the next video. So I hope this helps. Please work on your introduction. That should include your overview of your topic. It should also include your research question, the purpose of the study, your research question, and operational definitions. Then you have another heading that says literature review. You review your literature. That is 3 to 5 pages. Your introduction should be 1 to 2 pages. Okay, so total, when you turn this in by the end of next week, should be, I'd say, max 7 pages, maybe more if you write a lot. Okay, so please do not skimp on this top part of the paper. I hope you guys have a great week.